Fuck. Okay. Alright, so I just need to look at my score manager script and my how to um
Why should you use Miro? Well, when you draw on a whiteboard, no one sees it. With Miro, you plan together.
Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be
welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna be doing some annoying. Let's go player controls. No, not player controls. It's gonna be delect. Okay. I'm gonna just name this something else. Fuck. Let's say. Let's see. No, because what's gonna happen is it's like, how do I make something just the player? It needs to get triggered only with the player.
going over how to add collisions to our enemies. So we're going to take our little stomp guy over here, we're going to add a collider to him, and whenever the player collides with him, we're going to restart the level. And we're also going to do that for the spikes. And after that, we are going to add a chest, and we are going to add a win condition. So when you reach the chest, then the level will continue on to the next one, or in this case, it will just restart this level since we only have one level. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is add a collider to the enemies. So in our hierarchy on the left, we want to go under our environment game object and select the enemy. So we can just click on the enemy and it'll select it, which is the mace right now. And all we have to do to add a collider is on the right under the inspector, we add component, and then we add a 2D box collider. And so this automatically calculates the bounds of this enemy and adds a collider to it. And then for our spikes, we're going to want to do the same thing. So we can click the spikes, and in this case, we want to have one collider for both spikes. So to do that, we can just under environment, we can right click environment, and then we can create an empty object. And then we can click these two game objects, the spikes. So click one and then press Control and click the other. And then we can just drag them under the new game object, dragging them onto the game object. And so then we can rename the game object by pressing F2. And let's rename it to spikes. And so one thing we want to do before we add a box collider to the parent is that we want to copy the transform of the child. So let's go to one of the childs, let's copy that transform. So right click, copy component, and then let's copy that onto its parent transform. And the reason we want to do this is that we want to center the parent wherever the children were previously, and that's to make sure our collider is centered in that spot. And now our spikes have moved because it moves according to our parent. So since our parent location was moved, our children location moved. So to center that, all we have to do is press 0 and 0 on the X and Y for both spikes. And now they are centered where they were previously. And since now they're in the same spot, let's select one of them and move them to the side by clicking and dragging, or you can change the values in the transform directly. Cool, now since we have our parent now, in our parent we can add a component. And let's add a box collider 2D. And so this is useful if you have a bunch of spikes and you don't want to add a collider to each one of them. You can make them a child of a parent, and then the parent can have that box collider, and you can change the size of the box collider as you need to. So as you can see, the box collider is not looking correct, so we can change the size by adjusting the X.
Bro.
So let's just put it to 1.25. Let's change the Y size to maybe 0.5. And then let's change the X offset to 0.25. So if the player lands on that area, then the player will have to restart the level, which we're going to write in a short second. So now let's go to our player script. So under assets and then scripts, let's click our player controller. And then Unity has a built-in function. If we scroll all the way down, we can add a new function. And that function is going to be called onCollisionEnter 2D. So if you type it out, Unity will autofill it for you. And it's called onCollisionEnter 2D, and it takes a collision 2D component. So this is attached to our player, and our player has a rigid body component and a box collider component. So whenever our collider collides with another collider, so in this case, whenever our player collides with an enemy, then Unity will automatically execute this function. So this is useful to say if we crash into the enemy,
This doesn't help at all.
We would do it in this function. But how do we know if we crashed into an enemy? Well, in Unity, there's things called tags. So you can tag game objects. So if we go back to our editor and then we click on the enemies, we can click on the mace and we can click on the spikes, which I just realized I spelled incorrectly. Let me just change that. So we click on these two game objects, we can select both of them, and then under the tag, we can add a tag, plus button, and let's add in an enemy tag. So tags are useful when you want to identify a group of objects together. So in this case, enemy would be a great tag to identify all of the enemies. You can also have subtags. So if you want to have a tag under enemies, you're allowed to do that. And this is useful because, as you can see, if you did it through the name instead, the names are different. You'd have to check each name manually if you had different names for different enemies. But since you have one tag for all enemies, you can just check if the collision is with an enemy tag, and if it is, then you restart the level. And so you want to make sure that the tags are in the game object with the collider. So we can click the spikes and we can click the mace, and then under tag we can click enemy. And that's because we collide with this collider, this box collider 2D, and then it will check this game object's tag. So it will check this tag and it will be enemy. So now let's go back to our player controller script, and we can check if that tag is equal to the one we want to check, enemy. So if other.gameObject.tag equals enemy. So this is a comparison if our tag is equal to the enemy string.
This is perfect.
Then we will load in a new scene. To do that, we have to...
I don't care. I'll have to put the detect collision. Wait, I feel like this might work actually. So if what is it? Let's go. What is it called? On trigger dot. Mm, 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 mm. This is where this should be, I feel like. Let's say private void. The fuck just happened here? This is update. Private, let's see. For this item, isn't this exactly private void on trigger? Oh, it's not in. Okay. I guess it doesn't have to be inside the update. It doesn't have to always check for it. If other dot game object dot tag equal to animal, then then I need to pull the score out. So detect collision score lives manager dot instance dot what I label it lives manager take damage lives manager dot instance dot take damage. Do I have to like instantiate it or anything? No, that's it. I just gotta call it. That's all I gotta do. I'm pretty sure that's just it. Oh, the issue is this cannot have. Wait, I think this actually will work. Oh shit, hold on. No, okay, so they're not colliding into me. Why is that? On trigger, everything has a box. Or is that not true? Let's see. Rigid body. Yes, it has one. No rigid body. But this is the one that has the player script in it. Private void on trigger enter. Does he not? doesn't have a box collider on him. Wow. Wait, he does or doesn't, bro? Come on. Why does why the fuck does hitting space make me fucking? Oh, okay. It's because it's. All right, so you know what? Let's see if I could not hurt myself by doing exactly what we just did here. If All right, so now I want to see if I still can get points here without fucking myself up. Beautiful. Okay, so there's something wrong with the tag. Untagged, untagged, untagged. There we go. That should fix that. Yep. Yes. 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 That's fucking amazing. I did it. So now I need to, I guess it could just be, I guess I could just write this in the lives manager. I could find I'll write this anywhere. Watch this. If lives, well, I guess this would be, no, this should probably still work. What are we doing? We're doing, um, game over. Right? Yeah, do that. But now, why is this not working? This is how that goes, right? Yeah, that's all it is. Why can't I do a, if lives equals 0? Int to bool. That's bullshit. Cannot. 0 is a number. Yeah, now it's a flaw. Oh, if lives equals 0. There's no way that that matters, right? Why? Oh, I guess it would be is equal to this. I also needed to make it end the game. How do I make the game end? How do I? It's probably just game, like end. Can I just like end? So like just end. Oh.
To import a namespace. So at the top, we go to using Unity Engine .scene management. And to do that, we can access our scene.
Okay, what the fuck? Player script, enemy script, prefabs. I should probably watch this.
So to load a new scene, we just do scene manager.load scene. And then we can load in our current level, which in this case we can do that by doing scene manager dot
Oh, this is sick. All right, well this is cool. This is how I'm gonna make menu and shit.
index. And so let me show you how this works. So let's minimize this. And in Unity, every scene has a build index. So currently we are in one scene. If we go to our assets and then we click on our scenes, you can see that we're in this sample scene. And scenes are useful if you want to have multiple levels. You'd have multiple scenes and each level would be in a separate scene. And then to add in a scene to your build, all you would have to do is go to File, Build Settings, and then in Scenes to Build, you would add open scenes. So any scenes that are not in this Scenes to Build will not be included in the build. And the build is just an exe in this case. So now that we added our scene to the build, you can see that on the right there's a little index. So currently it's the 0th index because it's the first one. And in coding, you start with the 0 instead of 1. So you could have just put 0 here, but if you wanted to make this adaptable to different levels, you can just get the current active scene and refresh it. So now if we click play, and we run into the enemy, we will start the level over again. There we go. And so one thing that I want to add to make this a little more interesting is that on this enemy specifically, I want it to be moving up and down. So kind of like in Mario. And to do that, we can go to assets, we can go to scripts, and then I can right click and create a new C# script, and we can call that enemy mace. And then we can attach that C# script to our enemy. So
Bro, this person's like, this is like me looking for one thing and then it just going. Does she have how to end? Is trigger.
Need it because it will transition once this one is done.
Imagine if manufacturing automation was simple. Introducing Vention. One platform to design.
Invention?
The chest open. So once chest open, so if we click our chest, it would trigger the checkpoint. So in that case, you would put is trigger because you still want the player to pass that checkpoint, but you also want to know when they pass that checkpoint. Let's click on our window. It says trigger this. Since this has multiple sprites.
This is pretty good. This one's pretty good. This is a pretty good one here. I gotta save this. I need to learn this. This is gonna be very important. How do I like winning levels? Udemy. Oh god. I want to make a game over. Great game over screen.
In this video, we're going to turn our game into an actual game by making a way to lose. That's right, we'll create a game over state. Pretty essential to any game, this one included. So let's dive right into it. So let's begin by dragging our score script under the scripts folder just to clean up from the last video. And currently the way we keep track of whether or not we've collided with something is using a script that sits on the player called player collision. And while it makes sense to detect player collision on the player object itself, the player object is not a good place to end our game. That should be done using some kind of game manager. So let's go ahead and create one. Let's right click in our hierarchy to create an empty object. Let's reset the transform and let's name it game manager. Let's also drag it to the top just to make it clear to see. Let's then add a new component and let's call that game manager as well. Let's say create an add, and this component will be responsible for changing states in our game. It can do stuff like start and stop a game, restart a game, and display UI on the screen if you want a score counter, a game over screen, or transition to other menus like a main menu or a level selector. In our case, we're going to make some code that will restart our game when we hit something, or when we fall off the edge. So let's double click the game manager. The first thing we need to do is delete our two standard functions. Let's also delete the two using tags up here. Let's then write a new custom function, void, and let's call it something like end game or game over. I'm just gonna write end game here, two parentheses, and then the curly brackets. And in here we'll do some different stuff. But for now, let's just display a message to the console to let us know whether or not we're calling the function at the right time. Let's write debug.log and then insert something like game over. We can then save this and head back into Unity. So now our game manager has a function called endGame that will display a message in the console. But we need a way to access our game manager and call this function. To do that, we go to our player.
Okay. Well, let me see what this does. Boot, boot, boot. Yay. It's funny because I guarantee this is only going to have said it once. Yeah. That's funny. Alright, well. GG. Again, I'm going to make a broken screen, boy. Alrighty. I need to make it so that I turn. GG. Okay, perfect. Alright. Well, we got lives take. We got player taking damage specific, so we learned about the tags. That was the huge right there. So tags with if other dot game object dot tag equals equals. So this is our money maker for the day. Good shit. I'm going to bed.